Anybody else have any questions?
What kind of bands did you listen to growing up as a kid?
Good question. I listened to a lot of things growing up. My parents were they were never musicians, but they were big fans of music. I mean, we grew up in, I grew up in New Jersey. I still live there. And so they were into, bands like Led Zeppelin and, the Stylistics and Cool and the Gang and that sort of thing. And that kind of just made its way. I mean, when I was like 3 or 4 years old, I was listening to that stuff, and I was a big fan of like, Billy Joel, and, would urge my mom to take me to the record store because the radio was always on, so we'd always just, be consuming music. And, I got into like, some heavier music when I was like 4 years old. My dad came home and he had like, this record, that's how old I am, record, vinyl, when it was, the only medium, not, yeah, okay. He came home with this Iron Maiden record, and I was 4 years old, and for me, like, that really got me turned on to like heavier music, and listened to Iron Maiden, and then all throughout school, like bands like Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, and then that turned into like Metallica, and Metallica was like the first band that I really kind of wanted to play drums, and then from there, it just got into really heavy stuff like bands like Slayer and that sort of thing, and I had like the metal phase, and then I really from there like kind of got into like jazz. I was like heavily into jazz for a while, like in my later years of high school, early years of college. I was into guys like like Tony Williams and Max Roach and Buddy Rich and that sort of thing. And then from there, I just really started getting into like just bands and electronic music and then just writing. Like I'm just really fascinated with just writing music now rather than just doing drums all the time. I still practice when I can. Actually it's still pretty lot. I still try to put like 2 hours in like to devoting just working on new things. It's tough right now because being in a band and doing other projects, especially with Coheed, because we're out on the road like 8 or 9 months out of the year, so where you get it where you can. And for me, the other important thing is that, as you go up and you start playing with, a band that, is touring, a lot of months out of the year. I mean, Dillinger did it too, and I was always, very into doing my own drums, and I still do it. I still love the idea of getting to the gig and setting up my drums and and reheading them and just going around the kit and playing and that sort of thing. I think that's a great thing. I think that has to do a lot with just the sound in general. You just you spend a little time learning the intangibles of how to tune your kit and mess with it and get it where you want. When it's like that saying where you just like you get like a nice pair of shoes or a new haircut, you feel great, and it's like the same thing with just like getting behind the kit, new heads, or even if they're sitting, they've been sitting on the kit for a while and you haven't tuned them or whatever, and you spend a little time, you get them sitting just right, and the kit sounds great, you're gonna play better. You always do, because it's all like a mental thing, if the drums are not sounding the way you want them and you're worrying about that, then you're not concentrating on what's really happening, mentally with what you want to project. That's one other thing that you're not, you're thinking about. It's like when I'm playing a gig and like, cymbals like falling over or something like that. I'm worrying about that cymbal if it's going to make it through the song or through the set or something like that. So that's an important thing to me. Just all has to do with like at the end of the day, like what my sound is about, and and what I'm going for. So, yeah. Any other questions? Nope. All right, I think I'm gonna leave it at that, because I got a gig to play tonight. I want to thank all you guys for coming out, and the weather's been. So thank you for sticking around.
Thank you.
And thanks for having me.